Your mind is a muscle. Emotion is a muscle. What a simple message for people to understand.
And a lot of the time, they explain things that you almost feel like you already knew. Would you say that about Tony Robbins?
I don't really think that you should elevate anybody to a godlike role model. I simply like the energy that he had and the effect he had on people and the advice he was giving. And we are live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about this guy who's super motivating. He's a motivational speaker. His name is Tony Robbins. Sal, you chose this topic. What attracts you to Mr. Tony Robbins?
Okay, Tony Robbins, I think he's not a motivational speaker, or I think he doesn't like actually the term, even though technically probably he is. He's a life and business strategist, and he's a life coach. And yeah, I first heard about him, I believe, during a time in my life when I was working on a few projects with a friend of mine from the Netherlands. Shout out to Paul. And we were reading a lot about financial freedom, passive income, and we were trying to find ways to get some financial stability into our, let's say, very unstable situation in our life. So we would take it all in, all the motivational videos we could get our hands on, all the self-help books, from the 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss to anything we could get our hands on. And so Tony Robbins also came up amongst those people. And yeah, as a general rule, I don't really think that you should elevate anybody to a godlike role model. I simply like the energy that he had and the effect he had on people and the advice he was giving. And he's kind of like a reminder of getting your act together and getting things done. So I like the energy he gives you. He's not somebody that I take as a role model, but he's somebody who, like a coffee, you know, every now and then I get a coffee to wake myself up, and every now and then I get a Tony Robbins to give myself a kick in the ass. So that's why I like him.
Awesome. Well, because I have a few regular speakers on my YouTube merry-go-round that I go to. Tony Robbins is towards the back end of those. You know, every now and then I drop in on a Tony Robbins because, like you said, he's such a powerful speaker. And maybe later on I can share some ideas with you from my language course, my applied linguistics masters, about the discourse analysis in terms of why he's powerful, why he's compelling, some techniques that he uses. But just to step back. For an overview at first, I think he's so attractive to people because it's sort of like when we were talking about Joe Rogan, we were saying this is a person who represents healthy, honest masculinity in a time when it's under attack and being called toxic left, right, and center. And he combines this healthy masculinity because he's a big bloke, you know. I don't know how tall he is. He's massive. He's strong. He's sort of this square-jawed superhero, you know. And there's this guy who's clearly a man's man, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that. He's a masculine bloke, but he's also into spirituality and energy, and he's somebody who's very open, like Joe Rogan, to teaching, but also to learning at the same time, and he's completely genuine and authentic in that. So I think that's why he's become so popular. He kind of fills the void that Joe Rogan is also filling, that especially young men are looking for healthy role models in the 21st century. What do you think, then? Are you a Tony fan?
Yeah, I'm trying to make up my mind really on Tony Robbins. I wouldn't say I'm a fan per se. He's been around years as well. That's what there's people used to play old CDs of Anthony Robbins, you know, and he, I'm not really, I think it's a shame that he probably gets washed in with a lot of these gurus nowadays. He gets thrown in with them when really he's done a lot in his life, and he's in all different sectors as well. He's quite big in the investment world, Tony Robbins, and he teaches that as well. Just something about him, like you say, he is a striking man. And when I was reading about him earlier, he actually had some sort of tumour which gave him a growth spurt. Have you heard this? So he had some medical condition which actually stabilised itself in the end, but he had some sort of growth spurt when he was younger. But like, when you see the man, I suppose maybe I don't know what it is that's thrown me off about him. Maybe I've heard him before, and then when you see him, I didn't expect him maybe to look like he did. And like you say, superhero looking guy.
Superhero.
It isn't what I was expecting. I was probably thought he'd be some kind of like wreck of a man who sort of just about pulled himself together. And I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't got much clarity.
Some sort of washed-up boxer, you know, like who's the guy that played the main on the Wrestler, that film? What's his name?
Mickey Rourke.
Sort of Mickey Rourke character, sort of dragging himself along through life into death's door. Oh, I've got some stories to tell you.
But you can see the man's energy. Maybe when I watched a bit of him, I did fall into it because he kind of was so energetic and believable, I suppose. Whereas the things he's saying are quite unbelievable. Maybe that's.
But when when you're seeing him speaking to somebody, he's completely present, which is a quality that I'm always trying to work on. Sometimes I get it, right. Sometimes I don't because my head's somewhere else. He's completely present. There's an interview with him and Russell Brand that I watched this morning in preparation for this. And he really is. He's leaning in, he's leaning, and not in a threatening way, but he's really engaging Russell Brand, and then he leans back. He mirrors Russell Brand's body language. So because Russell Brand sort of, you can tell he's not too sure at the beginning, and then he just gets completely engrossed in the man. And he's always talking about you. If you listen to one of his speeches and listen for the words you and yourself, your mind is a muscle. Emotion is a muscle. What a simple message for people to understand. Like talking about gym bros, right? That maybe think that, spirituality is not really for me. I just use this to eat. This part of my body is just for eating. Well, no. Tony Robbins makes these analogies with physical training. Your mind is a muscle, emotion is a muscle. Focus on yourself. That's his message, right? That there's a lot of things, like we were just talking about with fasting. There's a lot of things that you can control, and you need to take responsibility for your own life. And that's such a simple message, but it's incredibly powerful and incredibly necessary.
I mean, he's a very charismatic person, and I think part of that is what you say, like the way he interacts with people, and he really is there, present. He has a very deep voice, like a very, that certainly helps. I mean, the fact that he's a tall man. Thank you. The fact that he's a tall man, it doesn't really transmit very often on the video, so I don't know how tall he really is or not.
Tall.
Tall. You can only see that when there's somebody standing next to him, probably.
Oh, that tall.
Yeah. But he's not selling anything new either. Like, he's not selling some secret, or he's not talking about anything that's extraordinarily complicated. He's basically taken proven methods and tools in life, like get your act together, organizing things, like if things are overwhelming, use subcategories and group them into bigger chunks, so you kind of get a handle onto everything that you have to work on, and then you chop away, create subtasks out of every big thing that you want to do, and kind of make things manageable. Now talking about work related stuff. So he's not selling anything new, but it's just he reminds you that you can embrace positive change, and that there's a lot that you can change yourself. So what you just said also related to our other podcast episode that we did about fasting. Life is complicated, but at least instead of bitching around how everything sucks, you can actually do something about some parts of your life and make it better, and push the ball forward, push yourself to your limits and improve yourself, and constantly try to be curious and constantly improve yourself, and then over a longer time you will see the improvements.
Absolutely.
So that's what he kind of reminds you of these things. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, and I don't think just because he's talking. Sorry, Dan.
No, you guys.
Just because he's talking about an old idea, it doesn't mean that it's absolutely useful, completely useful. It's simple things, right? I think sometimes in this day and age we forget to keep things simple. Take a step back and say, okay, these are my problems. These are some possible solutions. I need to take baby steps and then get working and try to improve things for myself. If I don't improve myself, then I'm in no position to help my friends and family. And then I'm definitely in no position to help my community. So it starts with you. And that's why he's so powerful when he talks directly to you. Just to pick up briefly on the tone of voice, very powerful, deep and gravelly. And there's a general rule that says 38% of your communication is from your tone of voice. Over 50% is from your body language. He also has that when you see him visually. But if you just have the audio, then only 7% are the actual words, right? So if I say, I really appreciate you two as friends. These are the words. I really appreciate you two as friends. Same words, different tone, completely different message, right? Then I was listening and I was just taking a few notes. So on my applied linguistics masters that I'm halfway through at the moment, we did a little bit of work on rhetorical devices, and they make a speaker seem more persuasive and more compelling. So I've just got 3 examples from Tony Robbins. Number 1, the rhetorical device of assonance, which is the repetition of sounds. So when he said, for example, if you're unhappy, it's not your conditions, it's your decisions. So he repeats the isms. It's not your conditions, it's your decisions. That's called assonance. So it makes it very powerful and very believable. Number 2, alliteration. We all know what that is. He uses it regularly. Decisions equal destiny. 3 words. Decisions equal destiny. Super simple, but powerful, thanks to alliteration. Number 3, anaphora. He repeats the same sentence beginning again and again. So there was one speech that I listened to this week. He said, if you focus on, if you focus on, if you focus on. So that's another rhetorical device. It's not by accident either. People that get to that level of we can call it motivational speaking, life coaching, whatever label, they are hugely influential because they know how to use language to the best possible degree. So there's just a few things that I learned.
When you say it's not by accident, does that mean, I don't know, do they have some kind of script? Do they go out there and do it and then brush on it for the second time and they say, how about instead of that, you say that because that uses alliteration? Or do you think they just kind of do it by habit, like not by accident, but by skill of they just talk and then this comes out and then they kind of subconsciously remember it next time and it comes out and out? I mean, they must write these things, obviously, but do you think they have a team or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a good question there because obviously there's a science behind it, but like you said, is it that the science informs the speech, or the speech comes first and then the science studies what's there? They're 2 different things. I think when you say something compelling, a lot of the time you stumble upon these sort of rhetorical devices and you feel that it clicks.
Yeah.
So there's something physical, something genetic almost. You say, wow, the use of these words made me feel this. It all made sense when somebody said decisions equal destiny. I didn't have to say, oh, that's interesting. He used alliteration. I mean, that's how I think at the moment. But, my first reaction is just decisions equal destiny. Click. So simple, but so powerful. You don't have to overanalyze things to feel that energy from some words.
I think it can be both at the same time, actually. Let's not forget that Anthony Robbins, he comes from the world of telemarketing. So I'm sure that the marketing part, there are some tools and methods that I'm sure that he learned in the old days. So I don't think these things are actually coincidence. But I also believe that if you do it for decades, like he did, first of all, you build up a vocabulary, like a canned material, basically, that he can just recall. So something that he used over years very often. I'm sure he can then take it out of his bucket list and apply it, even if it's not in a prepared situation. He can use his canned material, and so he has some of these, let's say, vocal bits ready. Exactly. So I think it can be a mix. So I think he probably at this point in life repeated all these things so often that he can do both. I'm sure there's still a lot of it that's prepared. I mean, he has a whole team. If you just saw, he just is doing this online streaming kind of a week-long seminar right now, which is for free, I think. But then if you see the images, like he has got a whole team and dozens of screens and stuff. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes,
Sal, do you think that if it is scripted, it makes it less authentic in a way?
No, look, I don't think it's scripted to a T. I don't think he's reading off a teleprompter. I think he's getting his, first of all, his programs, I'm sure, have some kind of root element that are always the same. So he has some kind of points of reference that he can always fall back to. And I think that's what he prepares to. A lot of what he has to do is to improvise with his audience. But he's not just picking randomly somebody and says, I'm going to change your life today. No, his team. And I think you can also see it actually in the Netflix special, I'm Not Your Guru, which is about him, that follows him on his seminars. There's a whole team that, of course, prepares beforehand and researches cases and looks into them. I mean, first of all, he has to know about them. So they look into interesting cases that are present there tonight. And so I'm sure he mentally already prepares a little bit, or at least he's aware of them, and so he can already, his brain, whether consciously or subconsciously, can already prepare for that.
Have you guys seen the one? Because, like you say, Sal, often in his seminars, he picks people out of the crowd.
Right.
We don't know how random it is. How much preparation he had.
It's not random. They know that the people are what their problems are.
But still, I think you could tell that this guy wasn't an actor. I hope. But so he had this genuine problem. He had a problem with his marriage. And Tony Robbins sort of talked him through it. This guy's standing up in the middle of the crowd with the microphone, and he's starts to well up, and it's strong. They're sort of, a lot of what he does is spiritual with a capital S. It's what you would get in some sort of evangelical church. These the touching, the tongue,
speaking in tongues and getting rid of the demons.
Yeah, there's a lot of spirituality going on there. But like you said at the beginning, Sal, I think, as long as you take the positives for what they are and don't make a god out of a man, because that never ends well.
No, never. So you have to take the positive elements, because he shows you can do a lot. I mean, not everybody can become a billionaire like him. I suppose he's a billionaire and have a villa on a private island. It's not for everybody, but he reminds you that you can do a lot. You can do a lot, even if it's in your own small cosmos. And always, maybe part of it is also the way he acts. I think part of it is the entertainment factor too. Like he's a bit like George Carlin. Like he has rhythm in his and I think that's another device of his.
Absolutely, yeah. I wrote down rhythm and intonation.
Rhythm and intonation, exactly.
Very, very powerful.
George Carlin used that in stand-up comedy, like dun 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 dun. Like there's a rhythm to the words that he's saying, and so it's, a lot of that is also performance, of course. And these high energy, like I like the way that he gets the crowd going and he keeps them engaged for hours and hours and hours. Like even if you say that everything is scripted and he's a fraud, but
hang on,
try that with a script yourself.
Just because it's scripted, I don't think he's a fraud, because
neither do I.
Even if it was scripted,
somebody.
we don't know if it is. Yeah. Right. So if somebody's listening and they think, well, I've got 1,000 options on YouTube. Why should I listen to Tony Robbins? What kind of issues could he help with? What kind of person could he really speak to, do you think?
Well, but what distinguishes him, I think, is that he manages to communicate very important things in very simple terms. And somehow there's something about him that motivates you on a very deep level, So maybe that's the spiritual side, or maybe it's just a deep voice. Maybe it's just some superficial, primitive tricks that are being played with our Neanderthal brain. I don't know what's going on.
It's still our brain.
It's funny that you say, when you were saying that earlier, Sal, about him talking about really simple things, really basic things. That is what the majority of these people who have an impact on you do. They kind of walk you through the everyday and maybe hook. But this is what you're trying to improve on. They kind of talk about the basic things and maybe point out a couple of places and make you look at them in your life and make you look at them in a way that you haven't looked at before, which is more powerful than putting up something that is not a daily occurrence to you and telling you how can improve that. They often do that. I know what you mean. And a lot of the time, they explain things that you almost feel like you already knew. Would you say that about Tony Robbins? Because I feel like
I would, mate. Yeah,
like I say, Tony Robbins isn't my most influential, but a lot of the time when I hear a self-help person, self-help kind of turns me off in the first place. You know, if someone's a self-help guru, which is probably why he doesn't like the saying. But yeah, when I am impacted by someone who probably is a self-help person, it's more that they kind of tell me something that I almost already knew. It was like an instinct that I had that I hadn't cognitively voiced in my head, and they will say it, and you think, yeah, I knew that was right, but they've found the words to articulate it, and it kind of pulls it out from your.
I think we walk through life 3/4 of the time we're completely blind, or better said, we're blind to 3/4 of the things that we could be looking at. And like you say, the best sort of speakers out there, and the people that we all appreciate, I think, like Tony Robbins, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, they don't say, oh, by the way, there's another world across the ocean. They say, while you're walking along, just have a look at that. Wim Hof, have a look at a tree. Between Wim Hof and our friend John Michelle, do you know how many trees I've looked at in the last 6 months? Just the simple things. Usually you're so blinkered that you don't look up, or you don't notice these small things. All the small things add up to become the big things. And that's what these people help us realize.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's 20 minutes, I think.
Perfect. The perfect ending to this episode.
That was great, guys. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you, James. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Sal.
The glasses are coming on. We are.
Yeah, I've got an appointment.
Thank you, Tony.
The three-headed Hydra podcast with the glasses.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody. Let's go get it.
All right, guys, subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Why are we making these podcasts? Because 3 heads are better than 1. We'll combine our experiences and research on engaging topics to learn a bit more each time, enjoy the chat, and improve our own communication skills in the process. Innovation comes from the ability to correlate information between different realms of knowledge, and we all have very different realms of knowledge between the 3 of us.
Why the Hydra, you ask? In archetypal mythology, dragons guard piles of gold. Overcoming fears can bring great rewards. What you most need is often where you least want to look, and we won't shy away from the fire to challenge each other and reach that goal.
What's in it for you, listener? Learn, laugh, and love. Get involved and join us on this adventure.